going on, YouTube? This is Brainsmasher here today with a video about one of my favorite black metal bands. We're going to be ranking their discography, and I'm talking about Immortal. The winter days are somewhat kind of dwindling here, and I'm feeling nostalgic about the snowy, icy climbs that didn't really get this winter. But just kind of thinking about doing this video for quite a while, and so here we are. If you're not familiar with the band, this is going to be a great way to help you figure out which kind of entry point, which kind of styles of the band might be most interesting to you. So I'm going to be ranking them from my least favorite to my favorite. Immortal started out in 1989. Well, more or less, they started out as Old Funeral in 89. Put a couple of releases out for 2 years. And then the two core members of Immortal went on to form Amputation, which was more of a death metal kind of affair. They did a couple of demos in 1990 and 1991. And then we have the first couple of Immortal releases. They put this demo tape out in 1991 and this 7-inch out also in 91. That material is very rough, but it really shows the band kind of finding their footing and learning what their identity would turn out to be. So now, a couple of small-time releases out of the way. Let's get into my least favorite Immortal album. My least favorite, unfortunately, is the most recent album, War Against All. I felt like this. I think this is going to be this is the beginning of a new era for Immortal. It is not a very confident footing in the newer configuration. We've got a new drummer. Abath, again, is not in the band. I don't think he's ever going to be back in the band. We shall see. But this is really just Demonaz on his own. And I kind of just feel like the spirit is sort of there, but the songs are just, the sound is kind of there, but like song-wise, artistry-wise, I just feel like this is a really weak effort. I do not love it. I wouldn't say that the band is done at this point, but I'm going to be really surprised. And Immortal have surprised me several times, so I'm not going to put this past Demonaz. But I would be kind of surprised if the band actually does anything that is better than War Against All at this point. So that's number 10. See ya, War Against All. Number 9, at this point, I think there are 3 distinct eras of Immortal. We have the first 4 albums, which we'll be getting into earlier on, and that era ends around 1997. Then we have era 2, where Demonaz leaves. Guitar anyways, in the songwriting duties. So 98 till about 2010 here, era 2. Not 10. Was it like 12, 14, somewhere around there? I don't know. But then we have Era 3, where Demonaz is back on guitar, Abath is out, etc. But so this is the second album from the second era. Damned in Black, number 9. Don't love it. Don't own a copy of it. This to me feels like the band really found a lot of confidence from their newfound era of At the Heart of Winter. They had a lot of success with that album. A lot of people got into the band and got into black metal by way of At the Heart of Winter. And this album feels like they just took all of the confidence and the attitude that they gleaned from the At the Heart of Winter and, harnessed the sound and kind of boiled it down even further. It feels like a characterless album with not a lot of artistic ingenuity put into it. Not really. It just kind of sounds like a band that's fascinated with the clicks of the guitars and drums. It's really just like a production wankery kind of album. I don't love Damned in Black whatsoever. I think it's number 9. Coming in at number 8, I have Northern Chaos Gods, which I do have a copy of here. So this is the band's first album of Era 3. This is when Demonaz started to put out records on his own again. Songwriting duties are completely handled by Demonaz. Apparently the tendinitis is over with, and this is an excellent return to form. Not only because it certainly reminds us of the first era of the band, which, like me, a fan of the old style Immortal, had been waiting to hear for so long. I had stopped holding my breath, honestly. So when this came back, I was so shocked that it had so much of the old school element present. But not only that, I think it deserves a lot of praise also for not completely trashing or getting rid of the style that Abath actually helped the band develop through the second era on his own. So it's just a wonderful return to form. It embraces both era 1 and 2 as we get into the third era. And it's really sad to see the band go from this great rebound into the War Against All album, which was not really good at all. So Northern Chaos Gods, great, awesome production. It's I'm mostly impressed by it as a statement piece and like going against the odds that it had going against it. But all in all, throughout the Immortal discography, it's a pretty mediocre album. It's kind of whatever, but it is very impressive for what it was and what it should have been, I think. So that is Northern Chaos Gods at number 8. Number 7, we have Sons of Northern Darkness. Don't love this album whatsoever at all. I really think this is just not even a little bit better than Damned in Black. It feels like the exact same attitude and fascination with clicky, chunky parts in a black metal sort of context. It's barely even a black metal album. The only reason I like it a little bit more than Damned in Black is there is one riff in track 5, I think it is. There's a riff in there that sounds exactly lifted from Battles in the North. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if it was a relic from that era. It's just a little bit more confident, maybe well-rehearsed or well-written and developed material. But again, Sons of Northern Darkness is just not my bag at all. Number 7. Number 6. So this is the last of the second era of the band. And I do love this album. All Shall Fall was the last album that Abath, I think, wrote mostly on his own. And we had a big hiatus between Sons of Northern Darkness and the Northern Chaos Gods. Anyways, All Shall Fall, honestly, I was kind of shocked they were able to pull off such a good album after doing Damned in Black and then Sons of Northern Darkness. I felt like I would be fine with the band not doing anything any further, you know. But All Shall Fall has some great songs on it. It really sounds like a band that doesn't have as much of the pressure laid on them to, you know, perform or live up to the band's past hype. There's a lot more, I think, of the more spacious and atmospheric sort of Bathory-esque sort of sound here. Really sounds like an Immortal album too. I love so many things about it. I just don't really listen to it very often. Honestly, the next couple of albums we'll get into are going to be the ones that I reach for the most. So All Shall Fall, number 6. Terrific album, really underrated in their discography. I'm always really surprised when I hear people ranking Sons of Northern Darkness or Damned in Black above All Shall Fall. In that middle era of the band, I really feel strongly about All Shall Fall is way better than the other two that we just talked about. So number 6, All Shall Fall. Number 5, At the Heart of Winter. This one came out in 1998. I was very heartbroken when this album came out for personal reasons. I have a long story about that. A lot of you guys know who are my OG subscribers. But I was so excited. This was going to be the first album to come out after I had gotten into the band. So my entry point into the band was Blizzard Beasts. I was fascinated by the icy, cold atmosphere, the speedy, chaotic sounds. Then I went back and heard the other earlier albums and was just completely blown away. So at that point, I was just really eager and waiting for the band to come up with an even more extreme, even more frosty and crazy version of that music, and to hear them change sounds so much, and to hear my favorite guitar player at that time no longer in my favorite band was just such a heartbreaker. Given that, however, let's put all that aside, my personal, preferences. I think At the Heart of Winter is a tremendously written album. It is not performed very well. And I also have a lot of qualms about the recording of the album. I do not like the sterile digital sound that they're embracing on here. It's very, very accessible, let's be honest. It doesn't really have a lot of like evilness to it. It doesn't have a lot of bite. Everything just sounds really big and glorious and huge. And I just don't love that about this band. To me, the way that their identity comes across to me in the earlier days is that this band is mysterious and evil and have descended from the icy mountains of Norway to, conjure the blizzards to come up with this black metal maelstrom. And so to hear everything just represented so plainly and with such clarity and such volume, just it doesn't work for me whatsoever. All that aside, all the aesthetics, I think At the Heart of Winter is just a tremendously written album. There's just a lot of things about it that I don't love. Let's move up into the top 4, shall we? At number 4, I have Blizzard Beasts. I do absolutely love this record. It is super chaotic. It embraces the inventiveness that I first fell in love with this band for. I was first getting into metal when this thing came out, and so just to hear something so extreme, so vicious and unique was just a game changer for me. And I think this is really where the band started to gain a lot of popularity. But looking back, comparing apples to apples, it is a really, really weird album. It is kind of clumsy. The production to it is kind of bizarre. I do kind of feel like it fits that motif of kind of being like too frosty to have discernible clarity to a lot of the elements to it, and I do like that about it. But I don't know. It's a wonderful album. It's one of my favorite black metal records, but it's by a band that has some much better albums. Let's be honest. Love you, Blizzard Beasts, but there are a couple albums better than. In at number 3. Now we're getting into some of the contentious choices here. I think a lot of people would put this at number 1. For it being a really groundbreaking Norwegian black metal album, but we have Diabolical Full Moon Mysticism. This is the band's debut album. So yeah, they were really, really breaking a lot of boundaries. They were inventing some ideas that a lot of bands would take into further exploration and influence. Awesome album cover, by the way. This is really where the band, I think, starts to embrace their attitude and their personality and just go with it. However, the big detractor for me with this album, even though it is tremendously written material, is the drumming is very clumsy to me. I'm a drummer and I'm very picky about my black metal drumming, and a lot of the stuff on here just sounds like a guy who's out of place. He doesn't really know what kind of patterns ought to be most effectively accentuating some of their rhythms and riffs. So that to me is a big problem. But I don't know. The production is great. I love Pitten's recording on this album. It's got a ton of attitude. It's innovative, especially on the last song, The Perfect Vision of the Rising Northland. This song, for coming out in 1992, has some of the very first times you're hearing like a second wave black metal band incorporate acoustic guitars and keyboards and atmospheric kind of whispering and wind and kind of stuff like that. Even though a lot of that stuff, basically everything from this is torn from a Bathory discography, but it's an excellent album. I really love listening to this one. I just wish the drums were different. The tempos on this are not quite as fierce or relentless as the other albums at all. So obviously having like blitzkrieg drumming like the other albums on this wouldn't really make any sense. So I'm not saying I would know what to do in place of Armageddon's drum writing, but I just don't really love some of his stuff. It's very clumsy. Some of it's just awkward and doesn't really fit for me. So I don't know, maybe if somebody like Emperor's Faust had played on that album or something, I think that would have made that maybe a perfect album. But we're getting into number 2, my second favorite Immortal album, Pure Holocaust. A lot of my best friends are not surprised about my top 4 here whatsoever. This one just finds the band absolutely embracing everything they learned from the debut. All the personality, all of the viciousness, all of the mysterious, cold, frosty atmosphere. And they turned it up to 1,000,000 on this thing. And like, I think it's incredible how Pitton, the recording producer in Greg Holland Studios, knew the band's attitude and understood their personality and knew exactly how an album that this band would write should sound. It sounds perfect. It is just buzzsaw guitars, blitzkrieg blasting drums with the toms just echoing throughout eternity. I think this is one of the most brilliant iterations of this band. If you don't rank this in the top couple of albums in their discography, you're crazy. This is one of the greatest black metal albums ever written. Finally, my favorite Immortal album, Battles in the North. Why do I love Battles in the North so much? There is no other record like Battles in the North. There's no other band that sounds quite like this. There were a lot of things going, but for me, no one else was able to achieve the mysterious atmosphere, the frostbitten ferocity, just totally brilliant and original songwriting and guitar playing, and the extremity of all of it is just unparalleled for their time period. It sounds so close to the brink of falling off the rails, completely just blasting itself off into hyperspace. I would not be surprised if the drums, as rumored, were sped up so that the guitars would fit a little better during the recording. I don't know. That's some lore that we will see. But I kind of don't care. It's a perfect record. It's a 10 out of 10 for me. The guitar playing is amazing. The songs, while this being such a wild and inventive album, the songs, to me anyways, are so memorable, so catchy, and unforgettable. This is one of the main reasons I love metal so much. It's just such a unique and bizarre thing. So that's my number 1 Immortal album. Let me know what you think about my rankings. Couple other side notes. There is a Bath solo album called I that is really, really good. Demonaz also did a solo album back in 2012 or 11, somewhere around there. That's also really, really, really good. Looking forward to hearing what the band has to do from here on out. I'll be surprised if they ever top really any of these, I think. So that's it for me. If you want to see more content like this, give me a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit up my Patreon. There's tons of videos there. It's only $6.66 a month. We will see you next time.